Welcome to Native Calgarian and Mossy for listening. I'm your host, Michelle Robinson, speaking to you in Mohkinstsis in the Blackfoot Confederacy, home of the Nitsitapi, Sutina Dene, and the Yiharhi Nakota. I talk about history, current news, unheard news, book clubs, with special guests to give local or national issues a voice through an urban Satu Dene lens. My life's work will be to honor the voices of my ancestors and next generation with humor, love, and truth. Reconciliation is work, not performance. May we honor all Indigenous voices with that courage. Today is March 27th, 2025. Welcome to Native Calgarian. If you enjoy listening to Indigenous content by this Satu Dene woman, my Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you, previous donors, for showing your support. If you cannot afford to give, I'd love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com. Send in your comments or your questions. Also, giving a review helps whatever medium you're listening from. I have a YouTube channel that you can go and subscribe. I also have a TikTok, which a lot of people ask me questions and I do quick answers on there. So go to nativecalgarian.com for the latest podcasts, pin posts on social media, and TikTok, where a lot of action is happening today because of the federal election. And always remember, share the things you learn to your network about Indigenous people because, wow, Canada, holy racism. Anyway, we'll get into it. Oka. Oki, nagana go meko cheche stakomaki. Nera daga de kots negotine siku saradi. My name is Red Thunder Woman. My married English name is Michelle Robinson, and I use they, them pronouns. My Dene lineage roots me in the land of the Great Bear Lake tribe in Treaty 11. In Delany, I'm a native to Turtle Island. My Dene Nation is uninvited to this area of Clincho Tine Indahe in Satu Dene, meaning many big dog town, named after the Calgary Stampede. I was born in Calgary or in Blackfoot, Mohkinstsis, as Michelle Elliott, an English name that's afforded me privilege in an English colonial world. Acknowledging proximity to whiteness is important because the darker the skin, the more racism a person experiences in colonial spaces. My late great-grandfather is Milo B. Wolf from Delany. His daughter Alice is my now late granny. My mother and I are Northern Slavey Dene or Satu Dene, but my Indian Act and Post status card by the Canadian government says Yellowknives Dene First Nation. Through my father, I am a daughter of the Mayflower and a daughter of the American Revolution. Having a Canadian Indian Act and Post status card is a colonial construct by Canadian policies meant to divide Indigenous peoples' inherent rights. Indigenous Two-Spirit or the Indigenous 2S LGBTQ community and Indigenous women are at the bottom of the Canadian socio-economic ladder because of colonial trauma, imposed poverty, racism, gendered violence, and, of course, land theft. I am not a social worker nor an elder, nor do I speak on behalf of all Indigenous people. I just share my journey and as a Dene mom, live in this colonial, racist, ableist, misogynistic world in 2024. I think of, or 2025 now. Geez, getting that all mixed up. I think of all of this today, and I hope we honor the many Indigenous lives lost for this so-called country named Canada. I hope you all see your role in the importance of stopping harm, and as a citizen, see your role in reconciliation and as a treaty partner. Land Back is a movement that could save the planet from climate change created by colonialism, but it would be a part of a treaty partnership, part of meaningful reconciliation and honoring global initiatives like the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. As a former geomatics drafter, I'd be happy to teach you more, but you got to pay me. Go to nativecalgarian.com for more. So, lots of things to say on March 27th. Obviously, we are starting a new federal election. We just got news yesterday. We're going to have a 25% tariff from that orange Trump down south. And we have full out Russian propaganda going on through all the social medias. And it's sad and depressing how many dumbasses are falling for it. Anyway, we'll get more into that in a minute. I think it's really important to talk about the ceasefire that was supposed to happen in the Middle East and hasn't happened, and the genocide is continuing against Palestinians. And my heart is utterly and completely broken because it is Ramadan. And, every Ramadan, Israel goes hard at Palestinians, and I will never understand how we have chosen not to put a little more effort into, war crimes and UN putting up peacekeepers. Like we're not even having that conversation. We're just, hey, woohoo, let's go kill brown babies in the Middle East with our guns and our money and our union jobs. Woohoo, boom, boom, boom. Let's go do that. And as of what, 2 days ago, it turns out the US military just is on signal, group chatting, drunk text to each other about bombing countries. So fun times, folks. This has to be what it felt like in Germany in like 1939. It has to be. Um, but, you know, Canadians have obviously not studied history. So, and have Americans obviously been very sad reading the type of things that they have been updating about. So, free Palestine, my heart is with you. And if I had more influence to do more, bloody hell, I would. For folks who are following me for conversations about the Red Dress Day coming up on May 5th, we are looking for volunteers. And of course, this is all on Facebook because, it's really honestly an issue of privilege to be like, oh my God, I just can't be on Facebook because Facebook is meta and we hate meta. And it's like, well, you know what? That's great. But because you've chosen to put Indigenous people into poverty, that is our form of communication with each other. So either get off your high horse and get on Facebook and start talking to the volunteer coordinator, or show up. I know that's a crazy idea for Canadians. Oh my God, showing up? No. But you can also donate at the Reconciliation Action Group. We have a bottle drive set up, so like you don't even have to leave your house. You just fill out the form, put out your bottles. They come pick them up, and the money goes straight there. So you can do that. You can do e-transfer, whatever you'd like to do, and go from there. So, if you're interested in being a part of that as a volunteer, please don't hesitate to reach out on Facebook. And if you are a settler, show up, pretend you care. And if you are Indigenous family and you want to come to the mic, you are more than welcome to. You can reach out to me anytime and I will help you in any capacity I can. And if you have a family member that you want to honor with a red ribbon with their name on it, please reach out to me and let me know. And we're just collecting names and making sure that we can put them up. So, and a huge shout out to the whole team doing that work, specifically Deb Green, who founded doing that. This will be the 5th year, so this is her 5th year doing it. Okay, so lots of conversations to have about American colonialism and their conversations that they're having globally about taking over Greenland, taking over Canada. And this has really united Canadians to be about elbows up. And I've done quite a few TikToks about this conversation already. But very disappointing the amount of bots that are out there and attacking Indigenous people. They don't care whether you're Indigenous because they're racist Canadians. That's what they do. So a lot of blocking has been happening on my end, happens every election. And they don't really want to hear Indigenous voices. They just want to speak over us as they do, or take our talking points and not credit us as they do. So, yeah, I just really struggle with what people think is allyship and well, I don't struggle at all. I know it's not. It's fake. It's bullshit. And there's so many books explaining it. I got a book club. I got TikToks, podcasts. It's willful at this point to be, racist and choose to be that racist person. So, the end of the day, this is all treated land. This is stolen land. This is Indigenous land. Indigenous fought and protected it in 1812. We're going to continue to do that, regardless of white settler racism. We're going to do that. And it's a shame that they can't see that because of their egos and settler centering, fragility centering. I'm dealing with that with everything I do, obviously. Very difficult to have meaningful conversations with them. ICE in the States, seeing lots of horrendous stuff coming out of that. There was Indigenous fellow that I follow, and he was having visions of it, and they're obviously coming true now, where they're just grabbing brown people and throwing them in jails. And a few white Canadians made the list, and oh my God, it was so terrible for them. They had no idea this could happen to them. Welcome to our fucking life for the last 400 years. We live the post apocalyptic world you've imposed onto us. So, shitty. Don't wish this on anyone, that's for sure. But this is what happens when you have unchecked power in the US, and I would argue Canada too, and don't honor, international treaties, which is what Indigenous signed with British folks, and Canada took over, and Canadians are completely blissfully unaware of that thanks to their shitty education that they purposely vote for shitty education on. Danielle Smith, obviously using her time right now to shine as a pick me girl, and is on the record of trying to help the conservatives, but even a conservative had to put it out there. It looks like Pierre Poilievre is going to lose his seat too. So we shall see what that looks like. So a few folks have talked to me on the down low about Mark Carney, and I did meet him, and that's how I got to meet him, thanks to my friends on the down low, because I got friends in low places. Just kidding. These are friends in high places that wanted me to show up. So I did, and I met him. And nice enough fellow. Actually, shockingly nice. I've met a lot of arrogant, prickish liberals, like tons of them. Oh my God, it's disgusting. This guy's not that guy. He was really down to earth. I described him as like talking to your high school principal. That's kind of what he was like. He and I talked about SNL before Mike Myers and him shot all these elbows up, in the rink ads, because this was just, I met him Monday or Tuesday after Mike Myers was on SNL doing a fantastic impression of Elon Musk. For those who may have missed it, definitely go see that. So I was talking to Mark about that because it was a photo shoot. It was a commercial shoot for him. And, as I said to the organizers, I'm pro-Palestine. If you want my picture in there, I'm fine with that. But just remember that these monsters are going to come and attack you for it. So I never got a one-on-one with him, and we never spoke of anything of substance per se. I have been assured repeatedly by Indigenous folks on his team that he is committed to reconciliation. And so I'm going to hold him to account on the national Indigenous economic strategy, which I've talked about in other podcasts. For folks who have missed it, go back and listen to that if you have missed it. But ultimately, it's online, it's free, it's available for everybody. And those are, calls to economic action. All Canadians know. And because they were, oh my God, shocked and horrified that there were missing children and unmarked graves, even though they claim to have read the 94 calls to action, I'm sure they'll have no clue what I'm talking about when it comes to the National Indigenous Economic Strategy. But once again, our people have put together those answers for Canadians. I just know it's impossible for them to read them. So if you want to go check them out, please do. So leadership debate is coming up. I wanted to tell people, for folks who are getting all of this misinformation about the debates. There are two official debates, one in English, one in French. Both of them are in Montreal the days after each other. I want to say the 16th and 17th-ish, about that, April. And which matters because, it's our anniversary, which I probably won't be around for. So it sucks, but those will be the leadership debates. And the misinformation you're hearing is that Mark Carney doesn't want to go and do a French debate. What they're not telling you is that's a conservative, organization, and they're expecting him to pay, I don't know, something stupid, over $70,000 in order to attend, and they were excluding Elizabeth May, so they're like, no, we're not doing that. But out here, especially in Calgary, especially in Alberta, you're not going to hear that kind of information. because we don't do that. I mean, I was listening to Matt Galloway, who is national on the CBC today, and he was trying to give talking American talking points to his guests. Like it's shocking how far our own media has gone on this both sidings conversation. So, yeah, wanted to throw that out there. I want to talk about a few books here in a minute, but I wanted to let people know. Thank you for your patience for not having a podcast last week. I wanted to say we've put out, a few specials, so I didn't feel too bad about not putting one out. And the other thing is we have our new puppy who, if he gets up, I may have to stop recording and restart again. But we also have graduation happening. And next month is something that is, yeah, guess I should talk about this. One of the things that has been very upsetting to me that I'm very alone on is the amount of medical gaslighting I've been experiencing recently. It takes some time for me to lick my paws and try to figure all of this out. So that's why I haven't really discussed it. But basically, I got rear ended years ago. We had litigation, and I got to read the medical notes from three different doctors. One outright said, I remember the conversation very clearly. I said, I'd like to stop this conversation because it's clearly not trauma informed. And yeah, she did not write very nice notes about me in her medical notes, which cost me tens of thousands of dollars. So that is how medical gaslighting against Indigenous women continues to hurt us economically as well, if in case you needed yet another example of it. But also, it sucks because, the whole reason why I ever got politically active was because of the medical gaslighting I experienced when I had my daughter. And when I had my daughter, I still don't believe there's any real mechanisms against this patriarchic racist system. And because Canadians don't have meaningful understanding of racism, they can go, well, it wasn't exactly a white person that you were dealing with. And it's like, but there were lots of white people there. And just because people aren't white doesn't mean they can't hold white supremacist, you know, views. So it's very difficult for me to, it's very re-triggering to be talking about medical gaslighting in Canada because, I mean, Dr. James McCocus has talked about it. All Indigenous doctors talk about it. We have the, treaty right to health that Canadians ignore because they like to ignore and erase Indigenous people. So, a good friend of mine is on TikTok and says, have you ever heard of Honda? That's what white medical staff call Indigenous peoples. And, it's just so disappointing that it is 2025 and, the legal system works in conjunction with the medical system to deny Indigenous people full rights and full understanding of our health issues and our trauma. So it is what it is. I have to deal with the system next month in Edmonton because my mom is going to be undergoing a major surgery and refuses to move down to Calgary. So I have to basically be away from my family for a month to help her with that. And that's assuming it goes well, which my mom is meets the exact demographic of death in Alberta. 68 is the average lifespan of an Indigenous woman in Alberta. And that's thanks to all of the policies that have been imposed to us, the lack of economic inclusion, and of course, racism in the healthcare system. So, yeah, really nervous and scared about next month. And you may not get all of it, but it is what it is. And my friend is saying HONDA stands for hypertension, opioid, narcotics, alcohol, diabetic. And it sucks. So, that's the truth. I wish it wasn't like that, but that's the way Canada still is to this day. Anyway, um, my friend says there's always an assumption that we have one. No matter how many times I tell doctors about these issues, they see it as, me being crazy at the end of the day. And I I don't know how to help myself. I don't know how to help my daughter. I don't know how to move past this because I'm just not getting proper health care. And I know all the white settlers and all the colored settlers would be like, oh my God, we don't get good health care either. But you don't have stats like your death rate is of 68. And it's not that for a reason. And, and if you're unable to listen, just turn me off, block me. I don't want to hear from you. So anyway, this is what I've been going through. I am struggling as a result of it because it sucks. It hurts my self-esteem, not to mention all the other things in my life that has led me to have low self-esteem up to this moment, regardless of what I think I know and how confident I am in certain areas. So anyway, if you want to get off that topic, which I understandably I want to, something kind of big in the country right now is Hudson's Bay Company basically wanting to dissolve itself after giving all of its shareholders its millions of dollars. It's kind of funny as an Indigenous person. I've seen this great meme going around of, Indigenous people giving the peace sign over the grave of the Hudson's Bay Company. And I did try to find the CBC a morning show that Nagan Sinclair, professor and son of oh my God, Murray Sinclair, and he spoke so eloquently of all of the different barriers that the HPC put on Indigenous people when they came over here, including, you can't trade if you don't speak English, things like that. So anyway, him and a settler fellow were on there, and next month is Winnipeg, Nagan Sinclair's book. So hope you join us if you've read it or if you just want to hear about it. And Nagan said he might be on the book club, so I'm really hoping so. He's been really good to me in the past, and one of those folks that have inspired me. The first time I met him was at the U of C, and he talked about how because he got his doctorate in English, he gets to go through like I know he meant graphic novels and talk about them, but I always call them comics. They're so great. Anyway, I wish somebody would have said that to me too when I was his age, but I didn't have the means to go to university at that time. I didn't understand, even as a status native, how to do it. And we certainly didn't have these like, committees and safe spaces for Indigenous people when I graduated high school. I mean, the Indian residential schools were still running. So, anyway, really excited to read that book, and because of the other person with him, I got his book as well last night when I got to meet Crystal Gale Frazier, who wrote By Strength, We Are Still Here. And she talks about Indigenous people, Indian residential schools in Nunavut, Northwest Territories. And yeah, so I got to meet her, and I got to meet this Olympian, four-time Olympian. Her and her twin sister got out of residential schools by skiing. So it was really sad at times, though, because obviously everybody there was highly affected. All friends and family affected by residential schools, even settlers, actually, like settlers who have hearts that were shedding some tears. A couple of settlers there that don't have hearts that I have nothing but terrible things to say, but whatever. They were there to support. So and another great book that I just picked up, and I'm certain it was Nagan Sinclair who said, this book is available, and it's in a new Indigenous horror fiction, and it's all Indigenous authors, like little shorts, and it's the title is actually Ojibwe, and it means to tell a scary story, and it's spelled ZeGaajimo. And if you check my social media, you'll see me sharing it all around because it looks so wicked. And the cover has some great art on it as well. So anyway, super excited because if my mom is going through this surgery, I'm going to be by her side for a while and, probably just reading. So I got lots of good books to read while she's doing that, and hopefully it won't interrupt my book club. because that would really suck if it does. Anyway, so, and for folks who are back to this conversation about the United States and Canada, our November club is Arc of the Medicine Line by Tony Rees, and it talks about the border and what it was like surveying it in after the war. So I highly recommend all of these folks who don't know anything about our history to go check that out. I want to talk about the smartvoting.ca because it's a new initiative that was started in the Ontario provincial election, and they were very accurate. And basically, once again, it's about trying to put the right vote together. And my hope is that, well, right now it looks like the Liberals could sweep the country, but well, that might not be good for democracy. It sends a very strong signal to these Nazi right-wing conservatives that their bullshit rhetoric from paid by Putin doesn't isn't wanted anymore in Canada, and that a lot of the progressive conservatives have now come over to the liberal side for the betterment of the country. So, again, as natives, obviously, our ancestors made treaty with Britain, and our side has always honored the treaties, not the Canadians, but we have. So we will continue to fight for our lands and whatever capacity that looks like. And I highly recommend that all Canadians, we're in a war. I don't understand why that's so difficult for folks to understand, but basically Donald Trump has declared war on us. So you have to start thinking about being in wartime measures. It means we're going to be not buying American products at all. I would buy anything other than American at this moment. So I sure hope, and that's the bare minimum. I'm talking about things a lot more than that, but I don't think you're ready for that conversation. And we are getting quite a few American refugees coming up to Canada. My grandfather, who was in the military, thought it was going to be because of a nuclear holocaust, but it's not. It's literally because of fascism rising in the States and this ridiculous brown shirt stuff they're doing with the ICE and yeah, going after universities, academia. Yeah, yeah. And of course it all revolves too around Israel. So it's a terrible moment, and I'm grateful that we have good people stepping up to run. I did want to talk a little bit about that too, and then I think I'm going to be done for this podcast. I have to quit being on social media and reading people's comments when it comes to elections. Like I wish Canadians paid attention more to politics outside of elections. I mean, we've been warning people about the direction that conservatives have been going for years. And lots of folks are putting out that information. And in fact, a lot of white people with a lot of influence are even getting sued for it. So I will say, like, if there's one thing about being a Native woman in Canada, I can say the exact same thing and won't get sued because I'm just not influential in the eyes of racist Canada. So thank you for all the folks who continue to listen and not red flag me and send me to, Calgary courts for the lawsuits that clearly other white influencers are getting. Very grateful for that. But at the same time, it just shows how uncommitted to reconciliation and listening to Indigenous voices other than on Indigenous issues. It's pathetic actually. So regardless, I'm happy I haven't had to deal with too many court cases like unfortunately my settler counterparts who have been saying the same things. And to Canadians who aren't really that politically involved, I have zero time for any Albertan that's like, oh my God, why won't the Liberals invest into Alberta? I'm an exhausted Liberal soldier. Been doing this since Ignatieff. And we have tried to engage with you. We have tried to talk to you. We have tried to get you to run. We have tried to get you to volunteer. It isn't from a lack of us not trying. It really is a lack of engagements from Canadians on this issue. So it's a real shame that only now that we are literally under threat in war against the US that now people are like, "Oh my God, I didn't know liberals in Alberta existed." Oh my God. So it's the 27th of March. As of yesterday, even my own conservative isn't on the Elections Canada list. So I have no time and patience for this. Why isn't there any liberals running in my riding? There will be. There always is. You just have never paid attention to it before. So my hope is, I want to say it's like, is it April 1st, something like that, when the like hard date is where all of the parties have to have their candidate in. So hopefully we'll have our all of our folks and I'm even getting trolled by some stupid conservatives. Say hi to Putin, you fucking piece of shit. Anyway, that bigger picture, I really want progressives to shut the fuck up and just get volunteering for every time you post on social media. Oh my God, I don't have a liberal candidate yet. You could have already gone on liberal.ca, signed up to volunteer. The phone lists are out. I'm making phone calls and updating our our data. So get with the program. And if you're like, oh my God, why do you push the liberals? It's because the NDP have absolutely never done anything for Indigenous people. So, and all of you folks who think they do, like, go back and listen to my other podcasts. I love that liberal tolerance. Yeah, because you conservatives have always been so great to us, haven't you? Yeah. This is the great thing about going on TikTok Live. You get all the Putin supporters on there pretending they care about the country when they've never cared about the country. So, anyway, back to this conversation. I pray that people get out and they vote. And yeah, if you're a First Nation, which I doubt, then I would say if you support the Conservatives, then you really got some reading to do. And we'll go from there. Um, there's a few folks that are running that are First Nation, that are um, Indigenous. Billy Morin. I don't want people to attacking him. Um, just like Patrick Brazeau. If you're into attacking Indigenous people for being conservative, like you don't understand why it is that we do what we do. We have to be at all these tables because you won't let us be at all the tables. So even conservatives ones where they'll let us. This is exactly what we have to do. And for folks who are claiming to be conservative and First Nation, like I just know you're just not educated on it. So it's a shame because we have to work with others. So if you're a Billy Moore supporter, of course, I'm going to understand why. I wish you wouldn't be, but it is what it is. I wish he could, run liberal. But at the end of the day, because economics matter, that's why a lot of our people run as conservatives. So do not attack conservative Indigenous people, because if you do, even I will hate you. Like, don't do it. But I'm a liberal. I encourage people to vote liberal. I pray they vote liberal. And I hope that there's a liberal sweep. I will talk about, I've always been critical of the liberal government. I could be more critical, but I haven't been in the recent years because there's too much at stake, which I've talked about. I've talked about how conservatives are going after Indigenous people's lives and how they're throwing us in jail provincially. Provincially, Danielle Smith, pick me girl for Trump, she's happy to kill us in these forced jails, which she calls drug treatment centers, which they're not. So my hope is that people will vote out conservatives provincially as well. We'll see. For the liberal or for the person on my TikTok, I've already talked about smartvote.ca. So you'll have to actually listen to the podcast, which would mean listening to Indigenous voices. So I hope you consider actually listening to my podcast that I'm doing live on. And yeah, so again, if I see you annoying me as a liberal bot, I will also block you too. That's just the way it goes. Because you're not listening to me, and that's what I do. So here we go. I hope you all vote. I hope you're registered. I hope you go to smartvote.ca. But I can just tell you in advance, it's all liberal. Go vote liberal. And Mossy Cho to my ancestors, to my granny, my mom, of what strength looks like through your example. I want to thank my dad for teaching me to be strong and blunt. My stepmom for showing me what a proud culture is through her Austrian family. Huge thank you to my husband. We are about to share our anniversary. And unfortunately, I probably won't be around for it because of my mom's hip surgery. So I want to say thank you to him for not just producing and editing this show, but being my husband, childhood friend. It's breaking his heart watching my struggles with the medical community, too. Same with our daughter. He's been the father of our child, support down my journey of the Red Road, and has witnessed decades of racism and sexism. And to our child, who we are blessed to learn from daily, we are honored you chose us. You give me daily accountability to be a better and stronger person. I hope my daughter and my family will be proud in the future of us trying to discuss these present day issues. I honor the Blackfoot as the members have been so kind to me on my Red Road journey. I learned how to say my name through, of course, the wonderful Clarence Clarence Wolfleg. I just seen him yesterday. He was petting our puppy. Yeah, just a wonderful human being. Anyway, Leonard Kenny taught me how to pronounce say my name in Satu Dene as well. And my humblest apologies to language keepers as I try to say these names and I try to learn my language. My Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you, previous donors, for showing your support. If you value listening or watching and can afford to give, thank you. For those who cannot afford to give, I'd love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com, where you can send in your comments or questions. I have a YouTube channel that you can go and subscribe. And, just touched grass moment. I got to see my daughter's graduation photos. My husband and her are out there right now, uh, trying to get the right suit for them for grad. And I'm really excited for what the future looks like for them and grateful that we get to have this little puppy around here to keep our spirits high. And tomorrow is my brother, or no, today's my brother's birthday. So happy birthday to my brother. And as always, I end by giving side eye to those Calgary rabbits. You're lucky I'm not your dish. And my beautiful cousin would say, or you'd be in my dish. Thank you, folks, for listening.